how often does your doctor actually teach you things on how to get well and healthy? What are we getting for all this money we spend? What are we getting for the way we live our lifestyles here in this country? And who's doing it right? Does anybody know what country is #1 in longevity?
Japan.
Japan. Somebody's been here before. So Japan and Korea, what are they doing different? So you and I all know that success leaves clues. Watch what they do what they do, and you get their results, right? You take the same Japanese and bring them over here, guess what? We Americanize them pretty quick, don't we? He gets to have cardiovascular disease. He gets to have diabetes, which is up 900%, particularly in young kids. So it all gets down to how do we live our lives? And you know what? That's the hard part. Because nobody wants to be able to be responsible to say, you know what? If it's going to be, it's up to me. I'm going to have to be the leader in my house and teach not only myself but my family how to be healthy, how to eat better. It's easy to eat donuts. It's easy to eat all that sweet stuff and all that junk food, isn't it? You know, I grew up on that. That's the way my parents understood. Although they had come off farms and stuff, and they had been eating a lot of wholesome food when they grew up. Everything's changed. And because nowadays the food that we have in our society has totally changed. It takes 5 apples to get the same nutrition as 1 apple 50 years ago. 5 apples. And you ought to see what they start talking about broccoli and all these other things. And then you put on top of it all the different chemicals in it. You know, they use these Roundup and all these other chemicals that you hear at Banville that are herbicides and fungicides on our plants and foods. Well, would any of you guys go into that Banville and start drinking it? Put it in your mouth? Well, most people do it all the time every day because it's sprayed on their food with a petroleum product so that it will stay on the food. So when it rains out, it doesn't come right off. And then we try to sometimes take it and put it in a little bit of water and rinse it off a little bit sometimes, or take it. I used to do it with apples. I used to rub it on my legs and well, I'll get rid of them now. And then eat the apple. Well, it's not going to happen. I'm going to get those toxic chemicals in my system. And it's not the one time that's going to kill you. It's the little bit day after day after day after day that causes the problems that we're going to talk about today. I truly believe that the environment in our homes is one of the most important things that are not being addressed. Right now, the inside of our home is 5 times more toxic than outdoors. 5 times more toxic. Do we have any builders here? Any builders? So when we build a house now, what do we try to do?
Make it airtight.
Make it airtight. We want to keep it so that we keep the energy in, energy efficient. Unfortunately, the house can't breathe. We suffocate ourselves. And because there's all these chemicals in our carpets and in all the different types of things on our walls and everything else, they're very toxic. So we need to have the house be able to breathe. The minute it gets warm enough, you want to have those windows open. You want to get some air in there from time to time. But the other thing that we see is that's very toxic is things around the household. And we can show you how you can go toxic free in your house and never have to buy toxic chemicals again. Never have to spray them all over your house. Breathe it in while you're cleaning your stuff up throughout your home. Because that's just another very, very important area to fix. When we start talking about how to live to be 100, if we keep putting poisons into our system from our household cleaning products, we're going to be in trouble. I know that the 2.5 water is used in 250 hospitals throughout Japan. They don't use any other types of chemicals to clean even their instruments to do their surgeries with. So, we're going to talk about the 5 R's. So let's go ahead and get started here. So there are 5 things that have been proven that we have to do in order for us to get rid of any disease known to man. And I mean cancer, I mean diabetes, I mean heart disease, you name it. It's all the same thing. Disease is coming from the same source. It's called stress. And there's 3 types of stress: physical, chemical, and emotional stress. All right, so the first thing is remove the source. And we're going to talk a lot about what are the sources. Well, one of the sources we just discussed. Stuff in our environment, okay? Regenerate the cell membrane. And this is a key. The membranes in the cells are the outside of the cells that allow things to go in and out. And I'm going to talk extensively about that. And then increase our energy. Cells do not run without ATP and energy. And guess what? Most people run on very low energy now. And I tell them, I say, well, you know, you got this car out there and you pull up to the gas tank there and it says I need at least 87 to 92 octane in my car. So what if I just put sugar in the gas tank instead, some water? How's that working? Because that's what the average person does nowadays. 140 pounds of sugar per year. Our systems can't handle it. Our cars couldn't do it. Why would we expect our bodies to? So restore the energy and reduce inflammation. Inflammation is the key, because all the stuff that we're putting into our body causes an inflammatory reaction at the cellular level. That's the key. And then reestablish what we call methylation. And methylation is getting the antioxidants back into our system to protect ourselves at the DNA level. Okay, so remove the source. We'll go through that. We talked about some of this: household chemicals, heavy metals, biotoxins. What is a biotoxin? That's somebody that's got fungus in their system all day long and they got candida. Cosmetics, I could go on for hours on that. Women's makeup has over 500 toxic chemicals in it. Of that, 236 are carcinogenic. Carcinogenic, you know that word, cancer causing. So we have to be aware of it, because it's not, once again, putting it on one time that's going to create the problem, is it? It's the repetitive use of getting it into our system day after day after day that has created this from 1 out of 200 to 1 out of every 2 people getting cancer. Toxic chemicals, that's a tough one, as that is put into all our food, our air, our water, and then obviously pharmaceuticals. Those are the drugs. The third leading killer in this country is doctor-induced death. People don't realize that. Number 3 is doctor-induced death, which is medical mistakes and medications that are prescription drugs that are used in combinations where people end up having drug reactions and die from them. Now, it's not to say that we should never use pharmaceuticals. That's not what I'm talking about. What I am saying is that we use more pharmaceuticals in this country than the next 22 countries combined. And we're 40th in the world in healthcare. Something's not right. So we use those to try to treat what? Our symptoms. This is a symptom-based healthcare system, or what I call a sickness care system. We wait till we get sick, and then we try to put the fire out with something really powerful. And then we keep people on it forever and ever and ever. And then as they get sicker, then they add another, and then they add another. And so I take a look at it and say, okay, we've got to always ask ourselves the question, why? Why is the body doing this? What is going on with the body? When you look at the cause and start really getting under the hood, that's when you can fix things. Let's say, for example, high blood pressure. Pretty common in this country, isn't it? But do people ask why? No, here's your prescription, go. Now you'll be treating that for life. When simply, 9 times out of 10, you can just make some changes with dietary changes, nutritional changes, and exercise, and 9 out of 10 people will be able to get off the medication. Never need it. Things that we don't really realize, like hairspray, blusher, foundation, deodorants. Now, does it make any sense that your skin is the largest organ of elimination? It's trying to get rid of poisons out through sweat. And one of the biggest problems that we have is breast cancer. And we're going to put an antiperspirant so we block the area that allows the poisons to come out through the breast area, through the lymphatic tissue, and we block it and don't let it come out. It's a great idea, but it goes against the laws of being healthy. We need to sweat, and there are ways to do it that will get rid of the bacterial odor so we don't have to be offensive to the person next to us. Perfumes. Never, 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 never spray a perfume on your skin. Unless you can spray it in your mouth, don't spray it on your skin, because your skin does what? It absorbs everything you put on it. That's what nicotine patches work so good. We put it on there, it absorbs the nicotine right into your body. Well, guess what? If I spray this on my throat, what does that do to my thyroid? It shuts it down and it becomes toxic. Now the thyroid doesn't work very good. We spray it on our hands and wrists, it gets absorbed in here. There's all kinds of different acupressure points in this area. Okay, nail varnish, that's another scary one because cutting off the ability for it to breathe through your fingernails, and there's toxic chemicals in those nail polishes. Lipstick, a lot of lipstick has toxic chemicals. Eyeshadows and shampoos. Now there are products out there by companies that don't have the toxic chemicals in. So you can still use a lot of these products here. You can still look pretty. You can still use these, you just have to seek out a company that is environmentally friendly for your body. Dr. Oz told viewers that testing commission found 10 of the 36 apple juice samples were with total arsenic levels exceeding the legal limit. So that's another big one that's going on now is arsenic. We're finding it in Turkey. We're finding it in different types of things like apple juice. They spray it on there. Cadmium. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about what we call heavy metals. Heavy metals are toxic metals that get into our system. And we have a simple test that we do through the urine. So it'll tell us if it's normal, mild, moderate, or severe. If you have heavy metals, you need to get those removed. And you have to have them removed slowly because they're so toxic, if you pull them out fast, that they end up in the hospital. So we use a thing called porphyrin, and porphyrin slowly, gradually pulls it out over a 3-month period. So cadmium is an extremely toxic metal found in paints, batteries, tobacco, big one in tobacco, and fossil fuel combustion. This is one of the most common ones that I see when I test the urine. Now lead is kind of sneaky because lead is oftentimes passed on through the umbilical cord from mother to child. It really is affected with a lot of different types of mental issues and learning disabilities and things like that. Drinking water in pipes, paint-based in houses older than 1978. So it's just another thing that we have to watch for. Seizures, behavioral problems, learning problems, slow growth, all those kinds of things. Unfortunately, as I was telling you before, what happens now, mercury is in the air. As it rains, goes into our lakes, settles to the bottom, and works its way up through the food chain to the fish. Now we can't eat more than one set of fish from Minnesota lakes per week. That's the maximum that you should eat as far as from Minnesota lakes because of the acid rain that has developed from the mercury, which is unfortunate because fish is a really good source of protein and very healthy for you. So we have to be careful with it. And I'd say, you know, change the type of fish, salmon, deep sea fish, cod, different things like that, tuna, and rotate them. But you have to kind of be careful because of the mercury levels now, unfortunately. Drug deaths are now outnumber traffic fatalities. Did you know that total number of medical errors and deaths equals 6 jumbo jets crashing every day? Human error does get involved with it, but we just don't know what happens when you put 4 or 5 or 6 different medications together over a long period of time. All the testing done in a drug company is with one drug, with a certain test group, right? They never say, okay, now we're going to put Zantac, and now we're going to put this one here, and then we're going to put your cholesterol drug, and we're going to put this one and this one and this one all together. Now let's see what happens over a 10-year period. Unfortunately, every drug, including aspirin, has a side effect. Every single one. The longer you take the medications, the more the side effects will compound. So I like using medications to handle emergency crises and then try to fix the underlying cause to work my way off of them. That's kind of my goal. And most people can work their way off most of their medications. I never take anybody off medication myself, though. That's a medical doctor's job, and I don't deal with that. But we oftentimes can send it back and reduce that. Regenerate the cell membrane. Because this is new information that's come out in the last probably 2 years. And most of the doctors, unless they keep up on that, and are seminaraholics like I am, they don't get this latest information. So in order to heal the membrane is the outside layer. And each cell has a double fat layer on the outside. And these fat layers are kind of like a contact lens. You ever see those soft contacts, how they are? They breathe. They allow things to come in and out. And on the outside of these membranes, they have what we call receptor sites. And I know I've talked about that before. And each receptor site is shaped differently. So on the average cell, there's going to be 20,000 to 100,000 receptor sites, or doorways. So we're inside one of your cells right here. On the outside, it's got these two fat layers that are real soft and spongy, and they allow things to come in, and they allow things to leave. To the extent that they do their job determines how long you're going to live. It's that simple. Because I guarantee you, if you can't get nutrition in through here, and you can't get the waste products out, you will age very rapidly, you will get a disease, and you will die. That's the key. There is different membranes. There's the outside membrane of the cell. Then there's the membrane of these things called the mitochondria. Now, anybody know what a mitochondria is or what it does? Those are your little power plants. And these little power plants get all your nutrients and your B vitamins and everything else that it needs in there, and it makes energy for the cell to work. And it has a membrane on it too, to allow things to come in and out. Now the goal of these toxic chemicals is not just to get here. It wants to get here. So if it gets inside there and gets into the mitochondria and shuts down your energy production, what's going to be the first symptom you have?
Tiredness.
I'm tired. I'm fatigued. I have no energy. I just can't get up and go. And that's the #1 symptom that people go to the doctor with. I'm tired. I just don't have any energy. What's going on with me? Well, your mitochondria are shut down, and now they have a name for it. It's called mitochondrial disease. What is mitochondrial disease? Diabetes. That's a mitochondrial disease. Cancer, mitochondrial disease. Cardiovascular disease, mitochondrial disease. And then finally, if it works its way all the way in here, now it can scramble the DNA. So the DNA has what we call switches. Just like if I flip that switch on here, the lights come on. So we can flip certain genetic codes that are going to protect us from getting cancer. Isn't that wonderful? It's built into our body. Now some people have genetic weaknesses that predispose them. Oh, my parents had cancer. My parents had heart disease. So there is a weakness in the genetic code there, but unless we flip the switch, doesn't mean we're going to get it. So when we look at this, we can prevent a lot of problems by flipping the good switches on there. And there's actually nutritional products now that are proven by 10 different universities to flip on the switch that increases our antioxidant capabilities. Absolutely one of the biggest breakthroughs in the last 10 years. Unfortunately, we hardly hear about it. So in order to heal the membrane, we do the rejuvenation weight loss, which is a detoxification program. And as a byproduct, you get to lose weight. So it detoxifies. It cleans these receptor sites out. that are clogged up. It starts to allow things to move in and out of the cell again. It starts to clean up the DNA and the mitochondria. So people say, well, I got more energy, I sleep better. Well, of course you're going to, because now your body's actually getting healthy again. We're fixing the cause. And then we use what we call the cellular healing diet. The cellular healing diet has no inflammatory foods in it. We stay away from the foods that cause inflammation, which we'll talk about a little bit more. And then essential fatty acids. Those are like omega-3s, omega-6s. These are the oils that soothe and actually create that double fat layer on the outside of the cell and the fat layer that's on the outside of the mitochondrial DNA. So I'm here to tell you today that fat is good for you. Bad fat is not. So hydrogenated oils, partially hydrogenated oils, man-made oils are not good for us. They cause inflammation. Eating McDonald's French fries, and I'm not picking on McDonald's, that are cooked in hydrogenated oils can take up to 7 months to break down in your body. That's why they're called hydrogenated oils, because they put hydrogen in, and hydrogen won't let the oil break down. But when you eat it, it's like a preservative in your body, it won't break down there either. So it's like margarine. Margarine has 2 bonds different than axle grease. And we've been told to eat margarine left and right, haven't we? Because there was a big fallacy that came on in the 1980s that fat was what was causing everybody to have heart disease and causing everybody to gain weight. So everybody went on a low-fat diet, no-fat diet, guess what? Heart disease jumped up even higher, and guess what? People gain more weight. So butter's good for you. Butter's good for you. It's got arachidonic acid, it's very good for you. So is coconut oil. So is olive oil. So if you look at these Mediterranean countries, these are other countries that do very well. They have a lot of those good oils in their system. And the oils are what keep your joints working so you don't get arthritis. They make your brain so it doesn't harden up. So what has gone like this in the last 20 years? Why the heck is Alzheimer's going through the roof all of a sudden? We had this idea that cholesterol was our enemy. Cholesterol is your friend. Cholesterol is what keeps you alive. Now, there's good and bad cholesterol. We make bad cholesterol when we eat bad fats. When we eat sugar, it's just like having little crystals of glass running through your vessels. And these crystals of glass, along with all the different chemicals that we put in here, irritate the lining of the vessel. It's like if I stood here and scratched like this for an hour. It's going to get all irritated and inflamed. That's inflammation. So the body has its own way of protecting itself, doesn't it? It's called cholesterol. So these big particles of cholesterol come floating through here, and they don't, regular cholesterol doesn't do anything. It helps you. Cholesterol and protein makes all your 600 plus hormones. Cholesterol and protein is one of the things that keeps your brain from getting hard and getting Alzheimer's. You have to have cholesterol. Your brain is 60 to 70% cholesterol and fat. Absolutely necessary for it if you want to have good memory and live to be 100. The problem is when we eat those wrong fats, the bad fats and all the chemicals and the sugar, it creates small particles of cholesterol. And these little guys can get in here. And they're the ones that cause the plaque buildup. And this type of plaque is a lot like toothpaste. It's not real rock hard, it's like toothpaste. And it starts to fill up in there, and then as we get more inflammation, guess what? Builds up some more. Builds up some more. Now all of a sudden we've got an artery getting narrow. It's because of the inflammation. That's what causes heart disease, is inflammation from the toxic chemicals and the foods that we're putting into our system that the body is reacting to. It has absolutely nothing to do with cholesterol. Cholesterol is the cop that shows up on the scene of the murder every time. And because he's there every time, he must have been the guy that did it. Not true. That's old bad science is what that is.
Does white flour cause that same inflammation?
Absolutely. Because white flour is stripped down so there's no nutrition left in it at all. And you might as well take the white flour and just use it for wallpaper paste because that's about how good it is. It has no nutritional value in there for your body. Same thing with white sugar. White sugar is considered one of the most toxic substances there is. So, now that's another whole talk where we're going to talk about coronary artery disease and heart disease and all that kind of stuff. But I just want you to know that cholesterol is good. The good cholesterol. We need to have it. And it protects us at all times from inflammation and injury. If we have an injury in our arteries or anywhere in our body, it keeps our brain working better. All right, next one. Okay, restore the cellular energy. The mitochondria provide the energy a cell needs. They are the power centers of the cell. ATP is the fuel that the mitochondria uses for energy. So all it is that the body brings in nutrients and the mitochondria put them together in a form that allows it to be rocket fuel. And the more rocket fuel we have in there for our cells to work, the more energy and the better we feel. It is so important for our body to be able to have that proper energy. Notice all the things inflammation is associated with. This is the bugger that causes all the problems, folks. Cardiovascular, Alzheimer's, diabetes type 2, arthritis, autoimmune conditions, neurological diseases, to name a few. It all gets back to an inflammatory reaction at the cellular level, which is what we're talking about. Everything happens at the cellular level. So inflammation is the #1 cause of preventable diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, cancers, and Alzheimer's. And this is a great article, if you've ever seen it. Time magazine finally came out, told the truth, which is absolutely wonderful. The surprising link between inflammation and heart attacks, cancer, Alzheimer's, and other diseases, and what you can do to fight it. The #1 medication is what? Lipitor. Lipitor. Now, just a side note on Lipitor, don't ever, and this is the world according to Dr. Martin. So I have to say that, I'm not a medical doctor, but this is my belief, is that you never ever take Lipitor without taking CoQ10 with it. Because Lipitor robs CoQ10, and CoQ10 is what gives the cell its energy, particularly the heart. And there are absolutely, we know that exercise, the anti-inflammatory diet work better and we use a couple of nutrients, work better than any statin drug, period. It's been proven again and again and again and again. But it's easier to just do a medication. You don't have to exercise, you don't have to change your diet. You just keep pumping that stuff in there, Unfortunately, the side effects come down the road. And methylation, reestablishing methylation. If your body's methylation is not working at an optimum level, it will translate into many different health problems and will accelerate your aging process. This is the anti-aging boom that people talk about. It's methylation, or another word is antioxidants. Okay. In simple terms, it is a process in which certain chemicals called methyl groups are added to various parts of proteins, DNA, and other molecules. So these methyl groups are key for us to have anti-aging. You want to slow down your aging process? I always remember Dick Clark, who just recently died. The guy was 70 years old and he looked like he was 35. That's genetics. He's got genetic things that are good in his system. And I see other people that are 40 and I think, how can you look like you're 75 years old? It all gets back to this methylation, because antioxidants will stop that oxidation process from occurring. So would that be a good thing for our cells to get more antioxidants or more methyl groups into our cells to make our genes switch on, which will make more antioxidants? Actually, millions of them per second. 3 things that have to happen is you have to have a pH, because most water as we've demonstrated, you've all probably seen it, it has a pH of 4 to 5. The only water that is above that is drinking water out of the tap, because it has lime and lye in the water, which is 14.0. Unfortunately, it also has chlorine, fluoride, and a host of different types of pharmaceuticals, whatever has been mixed up and thrown into the sewer system. So the pH, the more we can get our pH to about 6.5 to 7.0 in our urine, that means we're not getting cancer. I've never, ever, ever seen anybody that has come in and has had cancer when I've done their UA that has a pH over 5.5. They're always acidic, because cancer lives in an acidic environment. It has to have it.
Are most people acidic?
Most people are acidic. Absolutely. Because most of the foods they're eating are acidic. Sugar, extremely acidic. And you've seen the things with pop, the demonstrations we've done with pop and all those other things. And just their regular water is about 5.0. The ones that were the sandy water and all those things, they're all 5.0. So by getting the water we use, the Kangen water, it's 8.5 up to 9.5. That's going to gradually start to change the pH. And then we recommend eating more alkaline foods, right? So what are the alkaline foods? Fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables are alkaline. All right, size of the water molecules, that's the other thing. The smaller the water, the more it absorbs. As we talked about before, if you had a wire or the cage link fence and I'm taking and throwing a softball at it, it won't go through. But if I throw a golf ball at it, it'll go right through. So the more we absorb the water, because we're 70% water in our body, the better it is. Because water carries our vitamins or minerals into our system. It also carries oxygen and antioxidants. And that's the next one, is antioxidants. The water we use has 7 times as much antioxidants. How do we know? We can go ahead and we've got a little meter that we can put it in the water. And the water where we see Dasani and all the other ones are going to be about plus 200 to plus 400. So that means what? We're putting oxidation into our body. We're oxidizing our body with the waters we're drinking. And it's because of all the stuff that's changed in our water over the years. It's not the way it was 10,000 years ago. Okay? The water we have is 7 times stronger than green tea, which is minus 70 as far as a antioxidant. So it's a huge antioxidant for ourselves. Remember, antioxidant, anti-aging, anti-cancer. Gets rid of those free radical damage that's in the cell. And then pure, clean, toxin-free. Keeps all the poisons out of it. So exercise is another thing that we have to do. There's yoga, tai chi, stretching, weight training. When we look at, does anybody know what burst training is? Burst training is where we're going to do a burst of exercise for about 30 seconds to a minute, as hard as we can. Now this is a major breakthrough, because doing this for about 30 seconds to a minute 4 times in a row, and what you're going to do is burst as hard as you can, rest for a minute or 2 until you get your breath back, do it again, and do that 4 times. If you do that, you will increase your growth hormone. That means over the next 48 hours, you will lose fat. You will be burning fat for 48 hours, and you only worked out for 12 minutes. If you go out and take a walk for 45 minutes, you will probably lose about 300 to 400 calories. When you're done, that's it. There's no more fat burning. Now, it's still good for your muscles, still good for your heart, so walking is good for you. Absolutely. But for losing weight, burst training is 10 times better. And then the next thing that we recommend is the weight training. What does weight training do? It builds what? Muscle. And muscle burns fat. So that's the second phase. When somebody goes through, we don't want to do a lot of that when they're on the first phase of our weight loss program, the rejuvenation. But the second phase, we want to start building some muscle back in there. So there's very specific ways that you can go in and work out with weights, and in 20 minutes, you'll have a full body workout, and you do it twice a week only. That's it. And that's it. You don't have to sit in the gym 45 minutes to an hour, all the time, 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week. Here's my top 7 that I tell people if they want to live to be 100 and reduce the risk of getting rid of getting inflammation out of the system. Multivitamins and minerals. Even medical physicians know that people that take a multivitamin mineral every day are going to live longer. Omega-3, 6s, and 9s. Those are the second thing, to make that membrane of the cell more flexible and help with the joints, the brain, everything else. Vitamin D3. In this area up here, we are starving for the sunlight, aren't we? 7 months of the year, we don't get any sun on our bodies. And the other times, you know, we're indoors a lot. So this is a big one. And vitamin D is one of the things that cause our immune systems to become stronger. Anti-inflammatory, that's the other thing. Remember, inflammation is what causes all the major diseases. So if you could get something to take and get rid of inflammation every day, would that be a good idea? Absolutely. So we have a simple product that we have you drink 1 to 3 ounces a day, and it's got betalins in it. And betalins suck up all the inflammation right out of your system. Absolutely wonderful. Digestive enzymes with probiotics. I'm a huge proponent of this because 70% of your immune system is where? In your intestinal tract. That's where the ability to fight off infections and diseases is in the digestive tract. It also makes all your neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine. So now we're talking about anxiety, we're talking about depression, and we're talking about Alzheimer's. Dopamine, those kinds of things. When they are not being made in the digestive tract, because so many people's digestive tracts are trashed, they don't ship them up to the brain. So now they've got all these people on these psychotic medications. All these people on Prozac and all these other things. And all they're doing is just using the neurotransmitters that are stored in the brain, using them up faster. They're not replacing them and putting new ones in there. They're not fixing the digestive tract, which is the problem in the first place. Fix the digestive tract, the body will start to make those again and ship them back up to the brain where they need them. Does that make sense? Always think of cause. Why is this going on here? And when we see so many people, I found that if I can fix 2 things on people, 80% of the problems go away. If I can fix their adrenals, their stress glands, because everybody's all stressed out, and I can fix their digestive tract. That will get their immune system, their bones, their energy levels, all kinds of, their sleep will improve. All those things will happen just from here. And then the last thing is the gene therapy, because now we can actually switch on our genes by choice. We can turn on the genes that are going to help us live longer. Within 30 days, the genes will be turned on to a 20-year-old. That's what they've proven in 10 universities. So that was a huge, huge breakthrough, because now it's something I can predict. And what I'm seeing is that when I reduce it, I usually do it every 3 months, my UAs, but when I redo that, their antioxidant levels have gone from a 7, which is really bad, down to a 1, 2, or 3. So I know they're getting antioxidants and anti-aging and anti-cancer in their system. Stress reduction, big thing, breathing, affirmation. What we say to our subconscious mind is what we get. Because we have a conscious mind, which we use about 3 to 7%. And then we have this unconscious mind, which is running the whole show. And we do things and we don't even realize why we're doing it, because the unconscious mind just reacts. So it's kind of like this computer. I can put whatever I want into this computer and it'll play it off, won't it? That's what happens to our brains. Whatever we put in for beliefs, whatever we put into our brain on a regular basis is what we get back out. So when we start saying things about, I feel better and better every day, I have more energy all the time, my life is full of abundance of love, these kinds of things, pretty soon guess what happens? The subconscious takes over and then it starts just reacting, and that's the way we feel and that's the way we react to it. Next thing I'm a strong believer in is a spiritual relationship with God. I believe there's a higher power than us, and I believe that the more we get in contact with that, the better off we're going to be. Vacations. Got to have some time to recharge the battery. Get away, enjoy your life. Don't just get caught up, because Americans are workaholics. Family time, obviously very, very important, because that's why we do everything is for our families. And finally, just time for yourself. And that one there is one that we don't do very often. We don't just take time off to relax or go to a park or get a chance to think. Get a chance to set our goals in our life, what we would really like to accomplish this next year. And I just feel it's so important is to have that balance in your life. Detoxification is so important because of what? All the stuff I talked about today. We got toxic chemicals coming in our food, our air, our water. Every single day, even though we may be doing a pretty darn good job, we're still going to get some, aren't we? So, what should we do? We have a product that detoxes your system every single day a little bit. It gets rid of inflammation, and it also detoxes at the same time. Is it worth drinking 1 to 3 ounces of it? I think so. Because I can get so many things done when I do that. It gets rid of the inflammation, it gets the toxins to pull out of there, and then I use the water along with it. And I can keep my toxic levels down, way down, to a point where they're not going to create diseases in my body. When I get someone that's really sick and they got fibromyalgia and they got all these things, we have to detox them slowly for an 8-week period. And then just really start to change what they're eating and drinking. And 9 times out of 10, those people have life-changing experiences at the end of that 8 weeks. I'm not going to say it's easy, because changing your life a little at a time is not always easy, because it's easier to just keep doing what we're doing. But we don't want to keep getting the same results, right?